Hello, everybody. Everybody. Wow, that was a great intro. Let's try that again. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Southside Beat. It is Tuesday, April 9th. My name is Chris Halicke, and I'll be flying solo yet again because Corey Christen just covered the Pirates' loss to the Tigers. They were up 3-1, and David Bednar blows his third save of the season. It's becoming maybe a concern for Bucco fans, but this is a Steelers show, so we will be talking about Steelers on here. And thank you, everybody, for joining, for tuning in. And if you're not tuning in live, I appreciate you watching this back or listening to this back on wherever you listen to your podcasts. And really appreciate every single one of you. I cannot say that enough. I know that there are times where I really say it like way too often, but it's not, because it's not too often. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I want to reward you guys with another opportunity to bring your questions, your concerns. Let's talk about them. This is going to be just as much your show as it is mine. Today, the lighting looks a little bit different just because, like, the storms in Texas are brewing, and I don't have the nice natural light that I normally get. So I've got a different light set up here so you can at least see my face a bit. Lori coming in with job related, not necessarily Steelers related, but kind of Steelers related, since my job will depend on covering the Steelers, obviously. Lori asks, when's the move? The move will be most likely in June. I need to be up there for sure by training camp, which obviously training camp doesn't begin until like mid to late July. Mike in Texas, this looks like Chris is stuck in the eclipse. Hey, you know what? This is the best lighting I could possibly do. It does look a little weird with the dark background and everything. I could probably brighten at the back. That looks a little bit better. It does look. I don't know why I didn't turn that on. I'm an idiot. But it looks a little bit better now. Listen, yeah, it's not like bright up here and then dark back there. It looks a little bit better. But yeah, the move, dude, you're not kidding. Of all the things that I don't have for this job, I do need to get one of those like light rings or whatever. That we had one yesterday. I mean, it was 93 million miles away, but we had one yesterday in the sky. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I do honestly need to get one of those for sure. But the move, most likely in June. We are in the process. We're trying to get the house listed here in a couple of weeks. We were trying to get by the middle of this month. We're a bit behind. We still have to get the roof replaced on the house. We are in the process of that now. I'm waiting for the check to get back from my mortgage company before I can get a roofing company out here to start that process and get that done. But that's the last big hurdle. Anything else we're doing in the meantime is just, cleaning up, getting the house list ready. Pretty much, if you've never sold a house before, at least the way it works whenever it's a neutral market, or if it's a buyer's market, which right now it's a neutral market. So it's good for us because we're both buying and selling. The big thing there is you're essentially trying to make your house look more like it's staged than somebody actually living in it. So there's a lot of stuff up on the walls that's not anything have to do with our family stuff that's not normally up on the walls, because you don't want anything personalized or anything like that. And yeah, it's interesting. It is what it is. It's part of the process. So if you live in the DFW area and are looking to buy a house, there's going to be one on the market very soon, about 30 minutes outside the city. So yeah, it's a stressful process, but if everything goes according to plan, we hope to be moving sometime in June, definitely after the school year ends here. Billy asks, when's the Steelers move for a center going to happen? I'm going to say by the time, let's see. I'm going to say by the time the draft is over, there will have been a center added to the roster one way or the other, or added to the team one way or the other, whether that is a free agent signing, whether that is a trade, or whether that is a draft pick. I do think that center is going to be addressed by the time the draft is over, which first night of the draft is 2 weeks from Thursday. So 16 days away. So by the time the draft ends on that Saturday, so 2 weeks from Saturday, yeah, I would bet pretty strongly that that center is taken care of there. So, Mike asks, any word on the draft party? We haven't made any final decisions on that yet. We kind of need to iron out how exactly the coverage is going to go, because obviously the most important thing is making sure that we are making sure that we're actually doing our job, right? And that is like covering the draft. I don't know. Obviously, I know the Pirates would be playing around. I'm trying to think of like how available DK might be. He'll obviously be very involved in the draft and everything like that. But again, as I mentioned before, the guy is all over the place, and he is covering everything. He was in Toronto covering Penguins. The Pirates are going on right now. So I would assume that there might be something else that pops up that might, especially whenever he knows he can, trust Corey and myself to handle some things, especially maybe on day 2 or day 3. But I would expect us to get that part of it ironed out first. And then if we do some sort of draft party on here, it'll probably be just one of us. And when I say one of us, probably just me. But it really depends on what all we're going to be doing in terms of actual coverage. And it would be a lot of fun to do that. I have no problem admitting that it would be a lot of fun to do a draft party on here. Maybe for night 1 of the draft. I don't know if for day 2 or day 3 would be good. So we'll see how night 1 goes. And if like DK and Corey can handle everything going on the South Side, then maybe we'll do something on here. We'll see. Let's see. Let's go through a couple of other. Steven says you should require the next owner to not take the Steelers gear down behind you. So what's funny is that this gear behind me goes up and back down every single day. I just keep the nails in the wall, and I just put the stuff right back up. This is in my dining room. I don't have like a man cave or anything like that. So this stuff goes up and then it comes right back down, just because just one random wall of Steelers gear is a little awkward when it comes to like home design and stuff like that. Let's see. Brian asks, Graham Barton in the 2nd round. I don't think he's going to make it that far, to be completely honest. It seems like he's really shooting up draft boards right now. I think even with some teams, I'm not even saying like some like draft sites and how they put their draft boards together. I even think some teams in terms of centers are ranking Graham Barton maybe even ahead of Jackson Powers Johnson now, just because of the concerns over medicals. So I highly, even as we sit right now, I'm really doubting that Graham Barton's even available come night 2. So that's just my feeling right now. Ben asked an interesting question. I got this question in live queues on the site in our Steelers feed yesterday too. It is a bit interesting. Ben asks, do you think Connor Hayward could get a larger role in Smith's offense as a fullback / tight end? It seems like he fits the MO. Maybe. The one thing because obviously right now the Steelers don't have a traditional fullback on the roster. And if you go back and you look through Arthur Smith's offense in the past, he's had a traditional fullback at times. And so if the Steelers don't get one, then Connor Hayward would be the de facto fullback. If the Steelers don't get one, I just don't want to automatically assume that the Steelers are going to automatically employ Connor Hayward to be that guy. I don't think they view him as a primarily a fullback. I really do think they view him as a bit of a hybrid type player that can be used in multiple roles. it's one of the areas where I think we're going to see a bit of a difference in Arthur Smith's system that we've seen in the past with Tennessee and with Atlanta. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I don't think it'll look anything too similar to what we've seen in the past under Arthur Smith. So I still think that Connor Hayward plays more of a role of kind of a hybrid type player because, obviously, they got, the Steelers got Michael Pruitt. They still have Pat Freiermuth. They still have Darnell Washington. They've got tight ends, now they've got 4, including Connor Hayward. So maybe we'll see him in that role, but I still think that right now, I'm still a bit, I don't know. I'm not quite committed to put Connor Hayward as primarily as a fullback. Yeah, Barber says Connor is an offensive football player. That's the best way I can honestly describe him. And Barber did it for me. Yeah. Brian says tight end is a weak spot on this team. I don't think so at all. Not even a little bit. I'm not saying it's like a superb strength or anything, but when you talk about just on offense, the weakest spot right now is center. I would put receiver after that and then tackle after that. Tight end would probably be after that, but you could even raise questions about quarterback before then. I think, tight end might be the second most secure position on offense. Brian says Muth is overrated. Okay. We're going to have to agree to disagree on that one. He's not a good blocker. I'll give you that. But when it comes to his receiving ability, man, quarterback play for the quarterback play for the past 2 seasons has been pretty terrible, all things considered. So, and when he finally did get some good quarterback play, shoot, man, the Bengals didn't let Pat Freiermuth tear him up again. Like Pat Freiermuth and Kenny Pickett's best game as a Steeler, Pat Freiermuth just absolutely lit them up. And then the second time the Bengals played him, they were like, "You're going to beat us, but you're not going to beat us with Pat Freiermuth." And they completely did everything they could to neutralize him and opened up everything else on defense. And Mason Rudolph said, "Thank you very much. I'll just hit George Pickens all day long." Yeah, well, and this keeps coming up too. I'll continue to hit the nail on the head here because Mr. Nicotime says, "Don't forget we had a high school offensive coordinator last year." Listen, it's not just the coordinator and it's not just the quarterback. It was a mixture of both. There's not one gigantic person who is at fault here. I know Matt Canada is the easy scapegoat here, but listen, I broke it down on I broke down the film on it, man. It's not like that Matt Canada didn't draw some things up that couldn't have resulted in some bigger plays, man. Players didn't execute either. And a big culprit of that was Kenny Pickett and also Mitch Trubisky. Like, it was just, the quarterback play was not good. The best the quarterback play ever was for the past 2 seasons was the last 3 regular season games and the playoff game last year. That's it. And it was all under Mason Rudolph. Not saying Kenny Pickett didn't have some games where I was like, okay, that was a pretty good game, or he didn't have some good moments. But overall, the quarterback play was not good. I mean, it just wasn't. Offensive coordinator wasn't good. I absolutely did not like the system at all. And Cody says they were both awful. I agree. They were both bad. The system was bad. The quarterback play was bad. Just was. And I even had, and to go back to the tight end thing, if for Brian who thinks that Pat Freiermuth is overrated, to me, like you look at like Russell Wilson, like I'm concerned about how they're going to use Pat Freiermuth with Wilson. Now I know that those two have worked out together already this offseason, and that's a good sign. But the Steelers primarily like to use the tight end in the middle of the field. Now, granted, that could be different under Arthur Smith, but looking at Arthur Smith's history, you would think tight end would be used in the middle of the field. Well, Russell Wilson doesn't really throw to the middle of the field. It's not that he can't. Whenever he does, his numbers aren't that bad. He just doesn't do it very often. Stephen A says, I think Muth is appropriately rated. This will be a defining year for him. I agree much more with that. I'm not saying here that like Pat Freiermuth is going to be the number one tight end I take in fantasy football. Like, or he's like this, like he's a top 10 or top 15 tight end, but does he have the ability to do that? 100%. He's got the talent. He's got the talent to be a really good receiving tight end. Really good. I think he'll be at best a below average blocker, but I think if they can figure something out where they can use Pat more as a weapon in the receiving game, then I think you'll see his ability much, much more. Steeler Lee said, based on what you're saying about Wilson, it has me thinking Fields will start sooner than later. Listen, there are some concerns about Russell Wilson. The biggest concern I have is his lack of willingness to throw to the middle of the field. And that seems to clash with what Arthur Smith did on offense in Tennessee and in Atlanta. However, Russell Wilson still does some things good. He still throws a very, very good deep ball. Very good deep ball. He has for a long time. That has not really diminished. The numbers might be a little less than they used to be, but they're still phenomenal. He's still one of the better deep ball throwers in the game. And that's not hyperbole. That's based off of numbers. And also the eye test. Just watch him throw a deep ball. It looks amazing. He's not as athletic as he used to be. So his ability to make plays outside the pocket are a little more few and far between, but he still can. And Brian asks a good question, because I actually pointed this out whenever I broke down Russell Wilson's tape. Does he not throw over the middle of the field because he's a shorter quarterback and can't always see over the line? Ding, 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 ding. Yep. So dude's 5'11". Like, there are not many quarterbacks who are that short that have long-term success. And if you look at the way that Russell Wilson has had success in this league, it's been with plays outside the pocket. He's made a lot of great plays with his legs and a really, really awesome arm. Remember, Russell Wilson was also a 4th-round pick in the 2010 MLB draft. Dude has an arm that transcends multiple sports. Yeah, he's got a heck of an arm. And when you add very, very good athleticism to go along with that, that's why he has made a living outside the pocket. It can happen, and he can make throws from the pocket, but it's more inconsistent. And that's why when you compare like the way Ben Roethlisberger played when he was younger, he used to make a living outside the pocket and playing that backyard gunslinger type game. He had success with that, but that wasn't going to do well for longevity in the league. And so the one thing Ben Roethlisberger has over Russell Wilson is size. Dude, 6'5", 240. So as he continued to get older, as he continued to learn how to read defenses better, he became more and more of a pocket passer and was able to do more dissecting defenses from inside the pocket and be able to use his size to his advantage, to be able to hang in the pocket, to be able to use a very, very strong arm to be able to make any type of throw from the pocket. So yeah, it's that's, I think, one of the reasons why Wilson's game has not evolved the same way as like it has for some other quarterbacks who might have had more of a gunslinger outside the pocket type, game earlier in their career, but then it had to kind of evolve as they got older. Let's see. John says he will have to adjust to the middle of the field passing and play action passes. Play action, he's not going to have to adjust at all. Play action, Russell Wilson does fine. The numbers are good off of play action. Again, my biggest concern is his willingness to throw over the middle. And because if everything is kept outside the numbers, that limits what they can do in the passing game. But one of the ways that the Steelers can really, really put teams in a huge conundrum is if they can run the football the way they want to run the football, then it really will be pick your poison. Load the box and try to stop the run, and then be susceptible to Russell being able to throw the ball over the top, which he can. I mean, you even go back and look as recently as last year, defenses don't do a lot of single high safety against Wilson. They can't, because he can hit them with the deep ball. He can beat them that way. So you load 8 guys in the box, you're susceptible to getting beat deep. You drop more guys back in coverage, run more, cover 2 or cover 4 or some sort of cover 6, stuff like that. You're now opening yourself up to being, run on by Najee and Jalen. So it's that conundrum that the Steelers put the Seahawks in last year. That to me is the blueprint. That to me is the blueprint for what the Steelers want to do and should want to do on offense. As soon as you start loading the box, we're going to start hitting you over the top. As soon as you drop coverage back, drop an extra guy back to take away the deep ball, we're going to start jamming it down your throat. And Barbara asks, will the middle of the field be another no-fly zone? I don't think it will be, in terms of that. That was a combination of both Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett not wanting to throw over the middle. This might be more Wilson doesn't typically want to throw over the middle of the field, while Arthur Smith's offense does. So I don't think they might have to find different ways in order to make it happen, because I think Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin and a lot of the other coaches on the South Side on this team are very aware that they need to be able to use the middle of the field more. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out. I really am. Let's see. Let's go through some more. I have been meaning to star some of these comments as they go. Steeler Lee asks, instead of a 5th-year option for Najee, is there a possibility of giving him a 2 or 3 years on a half-decent deal? Maybe not right now. I think, honestly, if the Steelers are going to extend either running back this offseason, it might actually be Jalen. And that's because Jalen is coming up on his 3rd year, and he was an undrafted free agent, which means he's going into the last year of his contract. Because all draft picks get 4-year deals. First rounders get 4 years plus a 5th-year option if the club picks it up. And then undrafted free agents get 3-year contracts. And so he's entering his 3rd year. Now, granted, he'd be a restricted free agent at the end of the season, so the Steelers don't have to extend him. It's not like if they don't extend him and they get to the end of the season and he becomes a restricted free agent, or he becomes a free agent, that they don't stand a chance to have any kind of control. They do. He'll be a restricted free agent, which means, there's a number of different ways you can do it, but you can, you have more control over how to keep him. So that does bode well for the Steelers in terms of keeping Jalen, but I don't think there will be that sense of urgency to lock up Najee. I think the 5th-year option will be at least that'll be the first thing to take care of. Whether or not they decide to do it, I would be shocked if they didn't. But if they don't for whatever reason, then okay, maybe they try to approach him about an extension. Stephen A says, yeah, Najee's going to want big bucks, and I'm worried that they are going to give it to him. I'd much rather listen. The Steelers tried to give Le'Veon Bell a big contract, and it wasn't good enough for him. Just because a running back wants big money doesn't mean that it's going to happen. Yeah, I think Najee. I think this year, I think the Steelers should pick up the 5th-year option, because I think just based off of what he's done in 3 years. Now, this is 3 years with a bad offensive coordinator and with an at best average offensive line. He's turned in 1,000-yard seasons in each of his first 3 seasons. If he has a better offensive coordinator now, and if the Steelers can address tackle and center before the season, it could be a better offensive line, and I think Najee could have a breakout type season. And see, Josh Dobbs says here, Najee will be lucky to see $8 million a year on the open market. It really depends on what he does this year. If he has another season in which he averages, 3.8, 3.9 yards per carry, gets over 1,000 yards, is productive but not efficient, then yeah, I don't think he gets a gigantic contract. If he all of a sudden, under Arthur Smith's offense and with a better offensive line, turns into a very efficient running back to go along with production, and oh, by the way, he's played every single game so far, knock on wood for you, just for the superstitious out there. Glad my dog didn't bark whenever I did that. I mean, we could be talking about a very, very different situation where the fifth-year option all of a sudden looks like a gigantic steal. Gigantic steal. Yeah. Bob says, beloved Bell. What's an idiot? He had just had bad advice from an agent, man. Yeah. Cody says extending Jalen will be cheaper. I agree. It would be. It would be. A lot less leverage there. Steelerly asks, do you see George Pickens garnering a huge contract when he becomes due? I think you would have to see. Well, first off, the time to have a contract extension talk with him would be next year, next offseason. Because he's got 2 years left, so he's played 2 seasons, he's on a 4-year contract, he's got 2 seasons left. If he has another year where he continues, okay, so put up these numbers rookie year, got a little bit better, more productive second year, and if he has another year, if we see continuous improvement and continuous production, then I definitely need to have a conversation next offseason, and it might cost the Steelers a good amount of money, especially if we see any kind of like a huge breakout Justin Jefferson-esque type. Not saying that George Pickens is all of a sudden going to become the best receiver in football, but he's got the talent to. I don't think there's anybody who would really argue with me on that. He's got, oh my gosh, ability. So yeah, the next offseason will be the time to talk to George Pickens. Dang, we're already coming up on 30 minutes in this show, man. Holy crap. I'll try to address a few more questions before we get out of here. I don't want to get out of here any later than about 35 minutes. Let's see. I don't know about this. Okay. Well, okay. Never mind. Sorry. Let's just talk about George Pickens. I saw a lot more conversation about Najee. Thought this was going on. Cody says if he goes 1,500 yards, he's getting $25 million a year. I still don't know if it's quite that much. 20. If he has like an actual breakout year where he becomes like, in terms of production, like top 10, then yeah, you're looking at 20 plus. I don't know if it's quite 25 a year. I mean, you just remember the contract Deontay got, and Deontay came off a season in which he had over 100 catches and well over 1,000 yards. I think like 7 or 8 touchdowns. Brian asks, is Pickens really a malcontent, or is that all the media saying so and nobody from the organization? I don't know what media is saying that, but it's not me, and it's not here. I have nothing. I have nothing to suggest that George Pickens is some sort of malcontent. I just don't. I can't speak for other media outlets. I can't. I think you're seeing, anytime you've seen anything with George, I think it's just a receiver. Again, to kind of put this in the Mike Tomlin phrasing, you're seeing a receiver who wants the football. And for his first 2 seasons, he's had a bad offensive coordinator and bad quarterback play. That's going to make a lot of people frustrated. Just is. It's going to make running backs frustrated. It's going to make quarterbacks frustrated. It's going to make receivers and tight ends frustrated. It's going to make a lot of people frustrated. Fans too. God, don't want to discount that either. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Joshua Dobbs says the market for receivers is ridiculous right now. Look at Ridley. Yeah, I don't think that there are a lot of teams that would have given Calvin Ridley that contract, to be completely honest. I think that right there that's an example of there will always be a desperate team, or at least a few desperate teams that are willing to just pay a ridiculous amount of money to have a guy. And sometimes that guy is a dude. And, I understand that what I'm saying here is like very, very younger person vernacular there. But, and sometimes that he's just a guy. He's just another guy. I don't think Calvin Ridley is worth that contract. I don't. And I don't see the Steelers giving that kind of a contract to a player. If the Steelers were in that situation, no way they give that contract to Calvin Ridley. No way. None. Steeler Lee says, I looked at Leggett's tape and he is awesome, especially running after the catch. Yeah, he's one of the guys that I think that if you're looking second round, maybe if everything goes right for the Steelers, third round, I would probably say more second round. Yeah. Rico coming in with a $10 contribution. Appreciate that, Rico. And he asks, so what is the possibility of getting a cornerback at number 1 do for the draft strategy? Well, first off, that would change the Steelers draft strategy as it stands right now. Because right now the priority, and I'm going to continue to beat this horse to death because I've been saying it on the show for over a week, and I'll continue to say it. Because now there are other reporters saying it, and I've already been saying it. Tackle is the priority here, specifically right tackle. And you'll see more in my Chalk Talk that comes out tomorrow, in which I am going to look at five tackles in the upcoming draft. And you'll find out why tackle is the priority. But if cornerback was taken in the first round, just to acquiesce to your question, if cornerback was taken in the first round, either that meant a gigantic shift in the Steelers' priorities, or that meant all of the tackles that they wanted in the first round went goodbye, and the Steelers failed in any attempt to trade up to get any of those guys. Then that would mean that the best player available on the board was a cornerback, and then that would mean that the second round would most likely be either tackle or center. Probably best player available on the board by the time that pick comes up. So I don't think cornerback is the move in the first round. I don't. As of right now, I still think it's tackle. And Mike in Texas does kind of, and again, I want to kind of blend this a bit. Mike in Texas says, so much for best player available if they're targeting offensive tackle. I think the Steelers are, I think they are aware, number one, of where they are. First off, they know where they are in the draft. They're picking 20th. So you have to look at what players are realistically going to be available when they're picking at 20, or whenever they're possibly looking at trading up, trading down, anything like that. What players are best available there? Obviously, quarterback is not going to be like a big position there, because all the ones that are worth taking in the first round are most likely going to be gone by that point. Receiver might be another situation where all the receivers that are really worth taking in the first round, unless like Roma Dunze for whatever falls to like 14 or something like that, and the Steelers have a potential trade up scenario and they make that work. That's a very gigantic hypothetical that I don't think happens, but you have to look at where they're picking. Then you have to look at the best players that could be available at 20, and then look across, where do we need help? Where don't we need help? If the best player available on the board at 20 is a running back, it would be stupid to take a running back just because, it was the best player available. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. Or if the best player available was, an edge rusher, yeah, you could, in theory, take the best player available, but how much sense does it make to take an edge rusher at 20 whenever you have TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig? It makes no sense. So I think that when teams go in to take best player available, they go in that with also the common sense factor as well of we can't just blindly go top of the board no matter what position. Like, position is weighed into it, and it should be weighed into it a little bit. But yeah, you shouldn't. For example, center is a bigger need than tackle. But I think if the Steelers take Graham Barton while Fuaga is available at 20, that's a stupid pick just because you reached for a bigger need. Like, that is why I think tackle is most likely the pick in the first round, because there are a number of guys that can be, or that will realistically be in the Steelers range in the first round. But it is a good point to bring up. It is a good point to bring up because, some people hear best player available and they think that, okay, I thought you were going best player available, not just drafting for need. No, they shouldn't be drafting for need. But I also think tackle is not their biggest need either. I think the Steelers understand the importance of the tackle position. I think the reason why tackle is the priority is because they know how important it is to get that position right. Because outside of quarterback, tackle might be the most important position on offense. It might be. Because receiver, while is becoming more and more and more valuable in the league, tackles affect both your ability to protect the quarterback and your ability to run the football. And you have to get two of them. So I think that is, shoot, man, the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl and they had one of the worst receiving cores I've seen in a while. Like, their receiving core was a liability all season long. If it weren't for their receiving core, the Chiefs would have far and away they might have actually had a chance to go like 15-2 or 16-1. Like, it was a gigantic liability for this team. Huge liability for this team. And they still won. But you have the tackle position figured out. You got bookends on the offensive line, especially if you can get both in back-to-back seasons in the first round of the draft. Think about that. If the Steelers were to somehow get Fuaga, who might be the best right tackle in the draft, and if not the best, one of the better ones for sure. Or if they were to get J.C. Latham, another one of the best right tackles in the class. Like, if they were to get one of those guys for the next 3 seasons, you have cost control bookends on your offensive line. So, yeah. And when you look at Andy Weidl's history with the Eagles, when you look at what the Steelers say and what they're doing when it comes to the way they've reshaped the offensive line over the past 2 off seasons, I think trenches are becoming more and more of a priority on the South side. And that's why I think, I honestly think that's why tackle is the most important thing. So, all right, that's probably a good place to end it. We're 38 minutes in, over 38 minutes in. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Corey should be back tomorrow, I think. The Pirates are off, so there's nobody having to go to the ballpark to go cover anything. And I don't know if there's any kind of pit situation, but I think Corey will be back tomorrow. I also think that tomorrow DK and Ramon will be back tomorrow. So tomorrow should be a pretty good day here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Steelers YouTube page. Steven says, then imagine Chris Jones running through whatever backup center they throw out there. Yeah, center is a big time need, man. Center is a big time need. It's a huge need. I'm not denying that at all. Center, they need to address center, and that was one that was asked earlier in the show. They need to address center for sure, and I think it will be. I would be shocked if by the time the draft is over, the Steelers don't have themselves a starting center one way or the other. I'd be very surprised if that didn't happen. To bookend the show, Brian Bednar, rough start. Yeah, 3 blown saves already, man. Pirates had that one in the bag. Martin Perez, 8 strong innings, man. And then that one should have been in the bag, man. Would have been 10-2. 9-3 still a heck of a start, but yeah, when you have a win right there, it just slips through your fingers. Yeah, that sucks. All right, guys, appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Probably back to normal tomorrow. Mike in Texas back to normal for one day. Hey, man. But hey, just enjoy it. You know, this is life in the off season, especially this time of year where we're kind of leading up to the draft. It's kind of the way it is with training camp. There's that quiet before the storm before training camp. There's kind of a quiet before the storm with the draft, and it'll be interesting. So, all right, guys, appreciate it. Peace out. Catch you guys on the flippity flip. Have a happy Tuesday. See you tomorrow for Hump Day. Peace.